Watch live on the 5th of April the unveiling of the new Filippi single sculls.
Welcome to the Museum of Ancient Ships here in Pisa, Italy, for the unveiling of two new state-of-the-art rowing boats from Filippi. Here in Pisa, we're in a location that has a long and magnificent history of navigation in the Mediterranean Sea, dating back to the 3rd century BC, running through the period of the Roman Empire, the medieval ages, and the maritime republics, up to the Renaissance and the Medici family of Florentine bankers who built many ships here in Pisa to defend the area against Saracens and Turkish pirates. A fitting place for the unveiling of two new innovative designs from Filippi. The museum now hosts visitors from around the world who have that shared interest in history and innovation. Filippi Boats also has a long history with 40 years experience dating back to its establishment in 1980. And the engineers at Filippi use all of that experience and insights from around the world and all aspects of life and high-performance sport to find their inspiration for all of their designs. They look to aeronautical studies, the America's Cup, and Formula One to create some of the fastest racing boats in the rowing world. They've set themselves a new challenge, looking to create the fastest possible boat for the top elite athletes in a single scull. It's tough competition because, as you can imagine, racing happens over the tightest of margins where every 100th of a second counts. So without further ado, we're going to unveil the first boat here today. It's the F69 for senior women. Here we can see that fantastic new design from Filippi in this F69 for senior women. It has that signature Filippi color scheme with the blue and white, and on the top, that extra blue, this time with the white line. It's a fantastic, sleek design from Filippi, and the engineers have been really working as hard as they can to find the perfect combination between a single scull and this, the Alianti carbon back wing rigger. Loads of effort has been going into studying the female athlete's technique, and through that they've learned an enormous amount about the impact that stronger female athletes that we're seeing today have on the boat design. So they've made two significant improvements here to make sure they're focusing on increased rigidity and that power transition from the blade through the rigger into the forward thrust of the boat. Those two significant improvements, firstly, looks to the way that the carbon is made in the mould. Traditional methods which use the thread direction of either 0 or 90 degrees to the direction of the boat have been replaced now with a new integrated 45-degree woven fabric, which means that there can be fewer sheets used in each boat, reducing the amount of overlaps and gaps in those sheets, which leads to a stronger hull design whilst reducing the weight, a significant improvement in the construction of the shell. Secondly, looking to the stern, the volume's been increased, the deck raised, now connecting directly to the gunnel of the boat. This creates much greater stability at the catch, just when you need those athletes having a clean connection for the transmission of their power directly into the water. So marked improvements there. This, of course, is the F69, 7.8 meters long, it's 28 centimeters wide at the waterline, and designed specifically for female athletes weighing between 75 and 85 kilos. The engineers have taken their inspiration from the hull of the F52, but looked to add in some greater ergonomics and comfort for the athletes as they row this shell. We're seeing an increased strength in female athletes today, and when it comes to the catch, it's really significant to take that into account, because at the catch, that increased strength of the athlete is causing a rotation in the boat. So some of the design changes that have been made to this F69 have been specifically put in to compensate for that. Looking here at the widened stern, I mentioned that that is slightly broader, higher, connected directly to the gunnels, which creates some greater stability at the catch. The fin has also been moved slightly closer to the center of the boat to compensate for some of the roll that can be encountered at the catch. And then on the underside, the keel line of the boat, the curvature on the underside and that banana shape has been moved slightly further towards the stern. All of this combined creates a more stable platform for the slightly stronger athletes at the top end of the elite game to really transform their power through the blade directly down the aliante rigger into the boat and create that perfect forward thrust with as little pitch as possible. Testing at 32 to 34 strokes a minute has shown that the boat now maintains a really flat trim line, so that all of that effort is going directly into forward progress of the boat. Looking within the boat, we can see a few significant improvements in the internal components that you receive. The seat has optional inserts. The 4-in-1 action seat has optional inserts for those of different sizes. So they come as standard with a medium insert, but that can be changed. And the rails or runners under the seat are made of aeronautical aluminium that has been through a hard oxidation process and gives these rails a 3-year longer lifespan, but also gives it that burnished color that we can see. The foot stretcher is full carbon, and that means that it's nice and light, doesn't add any weight to the boat, but is stiff and rigid to really transmit all of the power from the athlete's feet into the boat. Sitting on top of the foot stretcher as well, we can see the mass shoes, the multi-adjustable system shoes, designed for that great comfort, whilst not shifting around and allowing the athlete to be confident that all the power transmitting through their feet goes directly onto that foot stretcher and into the boat. So this is the F69. We've got one more boat to look at before we conclude the unveiling here today in Pisa. And now it's time to unveil the second boat today, the F70 for senior men. You can see the same beautiful and sleek lines in this design as the F69 that we saw earlier. The same traditional Filippi color scheme through most of the boat, but on the deck or canvas, you can see that they've changed that the other way around, mostly blue with a beautiful white line. The boat measures in at 8.3 meters long and 28.4 centimeters wide at the waterline, specifically designed for athletes between 90 and 100 kilos, neatly plugging the gap between the F14 and 47, which are for athletes of 85 to 100 kilos, and the F39, designed for athletes between 95 and 110 kilos. You'll remember the F39, that was the boat that Mahe Drysdale won his Olympic championship gold at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. When we compare that to this F70, we can see a few noticeable engineering improvements. The bow has been made slightly narrower, and as we saw previously, the stern section widened and made slightly higher. And then, of course, on the underside, we have an increased banana effect or curvature to really maximize the effect of the carbon back-winged rigger. So when all of these things combine, we find that we've got a greater stability at the catch of every stroke for the athlete. So they have a really strong and solid platform to take the starting part of every stroke. We also see that the narrower bow creates a faster finish and a more piercing effect when it comes to the run and glide of the boat. All of these things then combine for a more forgiving level of stability for the athlete through every part of the stroke. Now, I mentioned a minute ago that the carbon back-winged rigger has been specifically designed to increase the thrust and improve the connection of the athlete through their stroke and transmitting their power into the water. Well, the Aliante carbon back-winged rigger here has a noticeable addition of the aeronautical heat-treated aluminium C-shaped clamp that's been specifically designed to remove any excursion or twist or bend in the oar lock or over that central pin to make sure that every ounce of pressure is transmitted directly down the rigger into the boat and used for forward thrust. A section of the hull has been strengthened using high modulus unidirectional carbon, which is 400% stiffer and more rigid than standard carbon, to receive that pressure from the rigger and transmit it into forward thrust. The design of this rigger means that it's lighter, which is of great benefit to the overall weight of the boat because it allows, or the overall rigidity of the boat, because it allows additional carbon to be put into the shell. So the overall weight of the boat doesn't change, but there's greater rigidity in the shell because of a lighter rigger. When we then look towards the back of the boat, the black wing profile fin has been added, which tapers slightly towards the stern and creates less drag and less resistance as the boat moves through the water, which is great for days when the stream is slightly high on the river, but it also is a slightly more forgiving effect for the athlete in case they make a slight mistake in their technique. Moving forwards, we can see the carbon insert, which is the shoulder protector attached directly onto the gunnel of the boat. It's slightly wider for comfort, but it's positioned right at the barocentric position of the boat, the center of mass for that improved stability and balance when carrying the boat. And then finally, we see here the forged carbon number holder. It's lighter, stiffer to make sure that the number doesn't fall out, and it's been designed to be even more aerodynamic so that there's the minimal resistance as this single scull crafts its way down a racecourse. Overall, a beautiful design here for athletes between 90 and 100 kilos, this F70 by Filippi. A stunning addition to the existing lineup from Filippi boats. With that, I'm sure if you're interested in finding out more about the technical specifications of this F70 or indeed the F69 that we saw earlier, make sure that you go to the Filippi Boats website where all of the technical specifications for both of these boats can be found. And you can also find the contact details if you're interested in asking any questions from Filippi. So make sure you pop along to the website. Thank you ever so much for joining us here at the unveiling of the F69 and F70 in the Museum of Ancient Ships here in Pisa, Italy. It's been a delight talking to you, and we hope to see you at the next unveiling.